The conviction stunned everyone. It wasn't just unusual, it was almost unthinkable. Devonte Marcus Ellis, the younger brother of the sitting governor, stood in shackles as a jury declared him guilty of a crime that didn't seem to fit him at all. Reporters stared wide-eyed, pens frozen above their notepads. Even jurors shifted uneasily as the verdict was read. Something about the whole case felt wrong, as though justice itself had been twisted into something unrecognizable. The charge was murder during a robbery gone wrong. The victim was a wealthy businessman with deep political connections. Prosecutors told the jury Devonte was hot-headed, unstable, and violent. They painted him as a man who snapped under pressure and left a trail of blood in his wake. But anyone who knew him swore otherwise. Devonte had no criminal record, no violent history, and no reputation for trouble. He worked quietly, kept to himself, and lived perpetually in the shadow of his powerful brother, Governor Marcus Ellis. Still, the evidence seemed stacked. A bloody shirt, an eyewitness who pointed directly at Devonte, and a grainy surveillance clip that prosecutors said placed him near the crime scene. But scratch beneath the surface, and the cracks appeared. The shirt. It carried Devonte's blood, but it was a size too small, and police never documented where it was found. It simply appeared in an evidence bag one day. The eyewitness? Nervous and inconsistent. He admitted under cross-examination that police showed him Devonte's photo before he ever picked him out of a lineup. The surveillance footage? A shadowy figure in a hoodie who looked taller, broader, almost like someone else entirely. Yet every time the defense tried to raise these points, Judge Malcolm Reese shut them down. Motions were dismissed before jurors could even hear them. Objections were silenced with sharp cracks of the gavel. When evidence was challenged, the judge ruled it immaterial. His cold stare made it clear, this trial wasn't about fairness. It was about control. Governor Marcus Ellis sat through it all in the front row. The cameras captured his face at every moment. The public saw a powerful man watching his brother fall. But those seated close enough saw something else, his jaw clenched so tight it trembled, his hands gripping the bench until his knuckles turned white. Marcus wasn't just mourning the conviction, he was boiling with rage. Because he knew something the jury didn't. His brother hadn't just been prosecuted. He had been targeted. Whispers swirled about backroom deals and hidden alliances. Judge Reese had long-standing ties to Senator Charles Windham, a political rival who had wanted Marcus out of office for years. Campaign donations funneled through shell companies, private meetings at quiet restaurants, and sudden rulings that all seemed to cut against Marcus's policies. None of it was coincidence. Devonte's trial had been a stage play, scripted from the start. And the ending was brutal. Judge Reese brought his gavel down hard as he sentenced Devonte to life in prison. Gasps filled the courtroom. Devonte stood motionless, stoic, while Marcus's fury burned silently beside him. The press swarmed immediately. "Governor, do you support the verdict? Will you pardon your brother? Do you still stand for justice?" Marcus said nothing as he pushed past them. But inside, he was already preparing for war. For days, headlines screamed the story. Governor's brother convicted. Justice or cover-up? Talk shows debated endlessly. But then, just as the noise began to settle, the twist arrived. An anonymous envelope landed on a reporter's desk. Inside was a USB drive. On it, a hidden camera video. The footage was grainy but damning, Judge Malcolm Reese and Senator Charles Windham, laughing over drinks, discussing how to make sure the Ellis name is finished. The reporter replayed it in shock. It was the smoking gun. Proof of collusion. Proof the trial had been rigged. But before she could publish it, her apartment was broken into. The drive vanished. Her computer was wiped clean. Her notes scattered. Hours later, her car was found abandoned by the river. Her purse untouched, her phone still in the seat. But she was gone. That same night, Governor Marcus Ellis's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, back down, or your brother isn't the only Ellis who pays. The message chilled him. His brother was already behind bars, swallowed by a system determined to crush him. Now the threat stretched further, toward Marcus, toward his family, toward everything he held power to protect. He had two choices: stay silent and preserve his career, or go to war against a system that had just shown it was willing to kill to keep its secrets. And then came the explosion. A new witness emerged, claiming to have seen the real killer that night. They were ready to testify, ready to expose the truth. But before their name could even be revealed, their home went up in flames. The case was no longer about one conviction. It was about corruption at the highest level. About a governor fighting not just for his brother's life, but for survival against enemies who had already proven they would stop at nothing. The threats didn't stop. If anything, they grew louder. Every day, Governor Marcus Ellis felt the pressure closing in: anonymous texts, suspicious cars parked outside his home, whispers in the statehouse hallways. His brother Devonte was rotting in a cell, branded a killer, while the real conspiracy marched forward in plain sight. But Marcus wasn't backing down. Behind closed doors, he assembled a team: trusted aides, a few brave reporters, and one quiet figure in a gray suit with an OIA badge. She didn't say much, but her presence meant one thing: federal eyes were now on the case. The governor's fight shifted from politics to survival. Late at night, he pored over sealed court transcripts, subpoenaed phone records, and followed the faint trails of money laundering that led straight back to Senator Wyntham. Each discovery added fuel to the fire. Each document screamed the same truth: Devonte had been sacrificed to cripple Marcus. But exposing it was dangerous. One by one, witnesses were silenced. The reporter who vanished. The neighbor whose house burned. Even a defense investigator wound up in a mysterious car accident. It was war in the shadows, and Marcus knew the next casualty could be him. Still, he pressed on. He secured a private meeting with Judge Reese, hoping to rattle the man. The confrontation was tense. Reese, older and colder than ever, smirked as Marcus laid out what he knew. Campaign donations. Late-night meetings. A video of him with Wyntham. The judge brushed it off. Rumors, Governor. Nothing more. But Marcus caught the flicker in his eyes, the crack of fear. Days later, the OIA agent delivered a breakthrough. A whistleblower had come forward, someone buried deep in Wyntham's inner circle. An older man, tired, slouched, his conscience finally outweighing his silence. He handed over documents, financial records, email threads, even surveillance logs. They spelled it out in black and white: Reese and Wyntham orchestrated the conviction. Devonte was their pawn. Marcus finally had what he needed. He called a press conference. Cameras crowded the state capitol steps as he laid out the evidence piece by piece. Reporters gasped as he displayed the documents. Anchors scrambled to update live broadcasts. And when he played the hidden camera video of Reese and Wyntham laughing about finishing the Ellis name, the room exploded. For the first time in weeks, Devonte had hope. His appeal moved fast. Federal prosecutors swooped in, announcing charges of corruption, conspiracy, and obstruction against both Reese and Wyntham. The state shook. The story went national. But corruption doesn't die quietly. The night before Wyntham was scheduled to testify, his car exploded outside his estate. Investigators whispered of a cover-up, loose ends tied off by men even higher up. Reese, however, wasn't so lucky. Dragged into court in shackles, he was forced to face the very justice he once manipulated. His gavel, his power, gone. And Devonte? After months behind bars, he finally walked free. The cameras were waiting, flashing as he stepped out of the prison gates. Marcus stood beside him, their bond visible in every tight grip of the shoulder, every look exchanged. Brother and governor, survivor and fighter. But freedom came with scars. Devonte's time inside left him changed, hardened, quieter, carrying shadows no press conference could erase. Marcus, too, bore the weight. He had won, yes, but at what cost? Careers destroyed, lives lost, enemies still lurking unseen. As the reporters shouted their questions, Marcus gave the only answer that mattered: justice was never supposed to be easy. But today, it's real. The crowd erupted. The war was over. The truth was out. And the Ellis brothers stood together, proof that even in a system built on corruption, sometimes, the fight could still be won. Who is really behind? Should Jason walk away, or fight back? Comment below and subscribe to follow the channel to know even system is built on corruption, the fight could still won.